Hi everyone, and welcome back to Pastor Paul's Daily Devotional. Today it is Wednesday and it is April, 7th? I think it's April 7th. I don't even know anymore. We want to thank you so much for liking and for joining and for sharing these videos. And so I'm just going to take a little seat over on this bench. And this week we're looking together at John chapter 20, verses 1 through 10, which teaches us that seeing, truly seeing, is believing that Jesus Christ has risen from the dead. To truly see is to actually believe. It is to surrender one's life to Jesus Christ, to his divinity, to his authority, and it is to stake our very existence, our sense of identity and purpose upon Jesus' power and love for us. Now, this week we're looking at the idea that there's at least in this text 3 different ways that we can see. Yesterday we looked at the idea of Mary in the original language, just in a very surfacey way, saw that the tomb was empty and ran off to tell other people. But there's a different word that's used of Peter, right? Remember, Mary goes and she tells John the Apostle, the author of this book of John, and Peter, and they bolt over to the grave. They want to see what Mary Magdalene's talking about. I love the little humble brag here that it says that the disciple, that is John, outran Peter and reached the tomb first, but he lacked the fortitude, the intestinal fortitude, the chutzpah to go in, and so he just kind of peered in, right? And then we have Simon Peter, verse 6, comes along, and he goes right into the tomb, just plunges in, no fear, right? And then it says he saw the strips of linen lying there, as well as the cloth that had been wrapped around Jesus's head. And so we see here that instead of finding this chaotic mess, Peter finds that the grave cloths are in an orderly fashion, which New Testament scholar Leon Morris explains this way. He says, quote, John is plainly describing, through Peter of course, an orderly scene, not one of wild confusion. This means that the body had not been taken by grave robbers. They would never have left the cloths wrapped neatly. They would have taken the body, cloths and all, or would have taken the cloths off and dropped them in a heap. So that's one of many indicators we get that Jesus has been truly raised and the body was not stolen by anyone. But did you notice here we don't get a response from Peter? Normally Peter is the demonstrative one. He's the headstrong one, right? This is the Peter that one moment in Matthew 16 says, Jesus, you're the Christ. And then when Jesus says, I'm going to die, I have to suffer, and then Peter interrupts him and says, no, don't say that, Lord. That's not true. Don't say that. And Jesus says to Peter, get behind me, Satan. And so Peter, pretty much half the time his mouth was open, he would insert his foot into it, right? But here we see in this passage, there's no response. There's no response. Peter goes in, and it says he saw the strips of linen there. And it appears that he is literally stunned, perhaps for the first time, stunned into silence. Now the word that's used here in the Greek for he saw the linen cloths is different than the word that was used of Mary Magdalene. The word that's used here carries the idea of to gaze, to discern, or to analyze. To gaze, discern, or analyze. So he is now pondering. Peter is pondering. He's looking at this in a way that he's reflecting and searching upon the meaning of why this tomb is empty. And so whereas Mary saw in a very surfacey way and reacted, we have Peter now seeing in a way that's pondering and reflecting. And so is that where you're at today? Are you looking at the empty tomb and rather than just blowing it off, you're actually talking, or I should say thinking and pondering, what is the meaning of this? What does this mean for me? What does this require of me? What claims on my life does this make? And you're actually starting to wrestle with the meaning of that. That is a much better place to be than the earlier kind of seeing. But as we're going to see, it's not yet sufficient. And we'll look at that more tomorrow with how John saw. So thank you for joining me today. You guys rock. God bless. And be seeking our great God and Savior Jesus Christ.